due to the course of the talk, I will elaborate and explain what I'm thinking with it. As it has been convincingly demonstrated by a huge number of experimental findings, groups do better at reasoning tasks than individuals. In some cases, they do even better than any of their individual members, sometimes even better than their best members. This fact has been demonstrated in all kinds of group cognitive activities, including political deliberation, sometimes scientific problem solving, and the like. I will take for granted that for all those group cognitive activities, the argumentative process can be seen as a common denominator. So everything I'm going to say about argumentative process can be applied to political deliberation, and I hope sometimes, in some circumstances, in scientific decision solving problems. So let me say something about reasoning and argumentation and what I take to be those two concepts. I take reasoning to be a cognitive mechanism which primary goal is to produce and evaluate reasons or evidence for or against a given proposition P. So by proposition, reasons, and evidence, I mean arguments. So I'm talking about argumentative process as a kind of communication, and argument is a logical form, or something like logical form people produce in the argumentative process. At the same time, argumentative process is a broader social communicative activities in which participants use reasoning. So, according to my general claim, psychological investigation in the last 5 decades or so have demonstrated a significantly poor performance on the individual reasoning in almost all segments of this area.
This area is the individual or the group reasoning?
That's only for individuals. So here I'm thinking of famous and celebrated ways on selection tasks and so on. So I'm not going into details because I suppose that everyone is familiar with it. However, more recent empirical findings strongly support the view that reasoning in the group, including political deliberations, scientific solving problems and the like, achieves much better result than individual reasoning. But caution, I have to elaborate my claim a little. As a matter of fact, a major problem has been that the empirical findings often prove inconsistent, sending mixed messages concerning advantages of the group reasoning. Reasoning in group sometimes homogenize attitudes and sometimes polarize them. Decisions made in group will sometimes be better and sometimes worse than the decision made by individuals. According to the findings, the general conclusion of surveys of the empirical research so far is that taken together the findings are mixed or inconclusive. So the current wisdom in social psychology, however, is that groups tend to perform rather purely. So this is inconsistent with what I previously said. How are we to reconcile this conclusion with my general claim? So here is the answer. First of all, some of the situations studied by social psychologists do not require any reasoning. For instance, brainstorming, a free-willing exchange of ideas, has been the basic of the research on group decision-making, yielding rather consistently poor performance by group. But brainstorming need not involve reasoning. On the contrary, it is supposed to be uncontrolled creativity during which ideas and arguments are not critically evaluated. Such forms of group decisions making do not concern me here. Let me review very, very briefly. I will just run through those results, but let me review some empirical findings supporting advantages of group over individual reasoning. It's a famous experiment performed by Moshe and Gale, where they investigated this Bayesian selection task, and the problem was presented to 143 colleague undergraduates, 32 individuals, and 20 group of 5 or 6 interacting peers. The correct falsification response pattern was selected by only 9% of the individuals, but by 75% of the groups. The superior performance of the group, that is important for my point, the superior performance of the groups was due to collaborative reasoning rather than to imitate or peer pressure. So, just briefly, the design of the experiment. I will skip it because I have finished in 20 minutes. In the individual condition, more than 5% selected the correct P and non-P combination. In the interactive condition, 70% of the group selected the correct P and non-P combination. So, that is something that which will accept a great number of the people researching in this spirit. Researchers who have looked at actual arguments and debates, even among untrained participants, are often impressed by the coherence of the reasoning displayed. So the question is how to connect these two results, this asymmetry between individual and group performance. One possible account of this asymmetry is naturalistic one, and I rely on the results offered by Sperber and Messier in a number of articles, and their evolutionary hypothesis. So, evolutionary theory of reasoning is this. Reflective reasoning has been designed by evolution as a communicative competence rather than aiming at enhancing individual inference. The emphasis on the function, the emphasis is on the function of reasoning. Instead of being a prop of individual cognition, reasoning is an argumentative mechanism geared to a social goal. So, reasoning is designed to function optimally in so-called normal conditions. What are normal conditions for reasoning? In this way, normal conditions for reasoning are now to be found in the disagreement between at least two individuals in the course of conversation. And that's what I take to be an argumentative process, or at least necessary condition for the argumentative process. We are passing now to the characterization of the argumentation or argumentative process. Let me start with the communication, because argumentative process is a form of communication. Communication is a central form of social praxis which, beside other purposes, has a goal of giving and receiving information. In a communication process, one can be informed truly or be deceived. The advantage of true information is obvious, as well as the danger of being misled. To judge the put out information correctly, one should possess a number of cognitive ability, among which the inferential ability is one of the most important. So, communication as a social praxis is a process in which the informer claims a statement or conveys the piece of information, and addressee evaluates the acceptability of the conveyed information. The information we are interested in might has a form of sentential claim that something is the case, that P. On the other side, the addressor is claiming that P, while an addressee, on the other hand, evaluates, in most cases implicitly, the acceptability of the claim. In such a simple communication process, the addressee evaluates the trustworthiness of the source and checks the consistency of the content of the claim with her previously held beliefs. It is hard to believe that one will blindly trust the source. Rather, the degree of the trust depends on the context, the addressee's interest, and the relevance of information. So, we have now the format of the communicative process. Human communication is usually not as simple as it is stated. In human communication, participants usually not only give and receive information, but the addresser also offers supporting reasons or good ground for the claim. The addressee not only evaluates the trustworthiness of the source and the consistency of the content of the claim with her other beliefs, but also the connection between the reason and the claim. It is the form of communication consisting of the claim, reasons or evidence supporting it, and the relation between the claim and the reason, where the addresser produces the claim and the reasons while the addressee evaluates it, that I will consider as argumentation. In such a simple argumentation situation, the addresser claims that P and P is a proposition of the form and object O has a property P. In support of her claim, she provides reasons, a set of reasons. A claim content P stands in the kind of consequential relation to this set of reasons. The addressee evaluates the argument trying to challenge either the truth or at least one of the premises or of at least one of the premises or the relation between the reasons and the claim. Let us take the central case of argumentation situation to be one in which the addresser claims and argues for P, believing what she is claiming to be true or at least highly probable, and has a good ground, according to her own lines, for it. Why the addressee wants to make it an effort to find out whether it is the case. Each of the participants is primarily interested or curious in the truth of the claim. Addressee wants to avoid false beliefs by hypothesis, while the addresser sincerely believes the P is committed to the belief that belief in P is true because P implies that P is true. This is the argumentation format I'm interested in, letting aside other possible argumentation situations. The stipulation that each participant is primarily interested in the truth of the claim is to be examined in more detail. What's important to mention here is that addresser is always biased, and typical bias appearing here is confirmation bias. Namely, one might object, given the addresser believing and claiming that P is committed to believe that the belief in known P is false, for P implies that P is true, and then has no motivation to find out whether P is false. The confirmation bias has been detected as a common fallacy in individual reasoning or in reasoning with like-minded peers. The confirmation bias leads individuals to reinforce their initial beliefs, producing individual polarization. Nevertheless, I will try to show that argumentation process has resources to remedy the confirmation bias. As Tim Williamson said, or depicted the bias in the stronger form, one is bound to think any given belief of his own superior in true value to the contrary beliefs of others in philosophy or philosophy. Fortunately, Williamson also offers a remedy that nicely fits to my approach, and he says, but sometimes we step back of our beliefs and regard them as psychological phenomena on a par with the belief of others, in equal need of both psychological explanation and epistemological criticism. So I will try to show that the argumentation situation is exactly the situation that prompts one to step back in the described way. Even more, I will argue that the very argument structure has the effect of the prompting participants to step back, and this is very structure enhances participants' inferential abilities. This stepping back provides additional motivation for the addresser to evaluate her own beliefs as well as her inferential steps. If it were the case, it would be plausible to suppose that firstly, participants are interested in truth, and secondly, that applying the appropriate notion of knowledge, it would be plausible to show that the argumentation process is a good means for extension of knowledge. Let me first offer an account of how the argumentation enhances the individual reasoning abilities and therefore increases the chances for reaching the truth. I will first illustrate the psychological aspects of the process using Dan Sperber's words. One way to persuade one's 5 minutes more. Okay, that's enough. One addressees is to help them check the consistency of what one is claiming with what they believe, or even better, if possible, to help them realize that it would be inconsistent with what they already believe not to accept one's claim. The communicator is better off making an honest display of the very consistency addressees are anyhow checking. This amounts to, instead of just making a claim, giving a reason why it should be accepted, arguing for it. Still more important features detected by Sperber is perhaps the epistemic vigilance of the participants. Participants in the argumentation are likely to display a higher degree of epistemic caution, to be epistemic vigilant, more than it would be the case in individual acknowledging the true state of affair. The notion of epistemic vigilance is based on the importance of getting the truth information and avoiding the false one. In the argumentation process, we have different roles in the argumentation, and the possible explanation of such articulated epistemic vigilance lies, I suggest, in the difference in roles participants may play in the argumentation process. The epistemic status of the addresser and the epistemic status of the addressee point to the quite different roles of each of the two in the argumentation process. The role of the addresser is to claim the claim, to provide and make explicit the reasons that support the claim. As we saw before, the addresser is inclined to provide more and more reasons for the claim. Concerning this tendency, empirical investigations report about the strong confirmation bias in the argumentation. It should be noted, however, that participants might switch their role in the process. In the same time, the role of the addresser one is under obligation to display reasons for one's claim, to get them in the relation to the claim in a way maximally understandable and clear to addressee. In other words, one will make it accessible and knowledgeable to addressee as much as possible. On the other hand, the role of the addressee is to evaluate the acceptability of P, assessing the reasons and their relation to the claim. The addressee will do her best to find counterexamples to the addresser's argument, and in this way falsify her claim if possible. The role of the addressee thus create the significant counterbalance to the confirmation bias the addresser is prone to. That's it.